What's going on, friends? Welcome back to the Honeystead. I have not taken you guys up here for a quick minute. I'm gonna apologize, but it has been truly honey harvesting and bottling season for me. But every opportunity I get to come up here, I do. And we've got a bunch of medicinal herbs that we still have to harvest. Some that I have already shared with you guys. I'm still harvesting, like the chamomile, which if you guys are interested in that, I'll put that video there. But we have a good bit still that we have not even touched. So I'm gonna try to get on that and start with this beautiful little plant that I have right here behind me. Now, this is probably one of my favorite. Yeah, I say that about a lot of them, so, but truly, genuinely, this plant right here is absolutely amazing. This is a form of basil. There are many forms of basil out there, but this one in particular has the medicinal properties that I'm seeking and the actions that I'm seeking. And so we are gonna harvest a good bit. Yes, it is going to flower. That's okay. I'm just gonna save some because I do plan on saving a lot of seeds, but all of it is medicinal that you can use. Leaf preferably in a lot of your teas, but that's what we're gonna do with this one. I prefer to harvest this one and strictly use it for teas. You can tincture it, but I just love the way that it tastes and I love the way that it smells, and it adds such a beautiful flavor into your tea blend. So my plan is we're gonna harvest a good bit. I'm gonna dry some in our drying rack if I have space in that. And I'm also gonna go ahead and freeze dry a good bit just because I wanna taste the difference between drying it and freeze drying. I know that freeze drying herbs taste so much more flavorful and pretty much as if they were just fresh as soon as it's reconstituted. But I'm gonna do a little bit of everything. So let's go ahead and start harvesting this beautiful plant, and then we'll dive more into the medicinal properties and what herbs I like to pair it with, because that's a big question. A lot of people wanna know what herbs pair well together. So we're gonna talk about that. Now, harvesting your holy basil doesn't have to be complicated at all. I'm just grabbing a handful of the stalk itself, and I'm using I'm actually using my mushroom foraging knife to cut the stalk of it because I completely forgot to put my garden snips in the basket and we improvised. And I am leaving a good bit still underneath with a few leaves because I'd like to see if it can continue to grow and I can get a second harvest. I hardly made a dent and we just harvested a little bit. Now some of them are already dried out to the point where the seeds are gonna drop. I'm gonna hold on to these because my plan is I'd love to have as much of this growing everywhere. Just kidding. But I do want to harvest seeds so that I can continue and have that regenerative aspect. So we're going to hold on to these. And some of these are still green, which is okay. Now the flowers do have medicinal properties as well. Ideally, like I said, if I was just harvesting this for tea, I probably would have tried to get it before it went to full flower. But sometimes your garden and timing and your life doesn't always work that way. And sometimes you just have to use what you have, and this is gonna be just fine. This is exactly what I need, and I'm absolutely gonna use it. So let's head back to the apothecary real quick, and I'm gonna get this loaded up. And before I do that, I will say there's gonna be a lot of you that are gonna ask, why did I not wash this? Well, it just rained. And if you guys have been following for a little while, one of the things that I like to do is I like to come out after it's rained, after we've had a good wash and a good storm. We don't use any chemicals on our garden. I don't use anything that necessarily needs to be washed off. I will give them a good look over and a good shake just to make sure that there's no buggies on them. But this is for us. This is what we're gonna use. I'm comfortable harvesting what I have in my garden and using it right away. If it was yucky and muddy and nasty, yes, of course I would wash. But I know we don't use any chemicals in our garden, so I'm completely comfortable with just letting the rain do its thing and coming out and harvesting. And I'm hoping the rain holds off a little bit longer until we make it to the apothecary. So come on, let's go. Before we start talking about Holy Basil and all its medicinal properties, I did want to let you guys know we are doing a limited time only t-shirt pop-up sale with some of the newest designs that Wild Made Goods created for us. She watched the YouTube channel and was able to come up with, I think, some of the most beautiful honeystead designs ever. And the bee that's made out of all of my favorite plants as well as mushrooms is probably my favorite. So I will put the link down below if you guys are interested. That store is only going to be available until September 1st and then it'll be closed. So if any of them speak to you that you would like to purchase and help support our channel as well as supporting that artist and another local business that we have here in our town for making them, which is Limitless Transfers. I can't wait. Maybe I'll be able to bring the camera with me when we make them this time because that was so much fun and very mesmerizing. But if you guys are interested, the link will be down below and I'll be sharing in the next couple of videos just in case if somebody misses this opportunity. But yeah, I hope you guys like them. I'm absolutely in love with them, and let's get talking about Holy Basil and all the goodness that it has to offer. Now, I've had a few questions in regards to my preferred method of preserving herbs or drying the herbs. And there are multiple different ways that you can do this. You can absolutely air dry your herbs. You can also dehydrate your herbs. But my preferred method is by using the Harvest Right freeze dryer. Preserving herbs by freeze drying will not only maintain as much of the nutritional property as well as the medicinal properties of the plant matter, but the shelf life, that is something that still blows my mind. The shelf life of freeze-dried items could last up to 25 years if stored properly. Unlike regular dried herbs, which tend to lose its potency after about 2 years, which isn't a total loss because if you're getting close to that date, all you need to do is just set up a really large tincture with the last bit of herbs that you have, and that will then extend the shelf life for another 5 years, just in an extract form. Now, I did go ahead and find a little bit of space in my hanging basket that I keep in the corner of the apothecary to go ahead and air dry a good bit of the Holy Basil as well. I really want to just show the difference between what freeze-dried and air-dried looks like so that you can see what I'm talking about. So it is definitely the next day. I wish that the freeze dryer could get things freeze-dried as quick as I put it in there. However, it doesn't really work that way. But it did take about like 12 hours roughly, I believe. I didn't exactly look. I probably need to get better at that, to go ahead and pull all of the moisture out of this beautiful plant and have it to be to where I can preserve it for the next 25 years if stored properly. We're gonna go ahead and store it in some of our smaller jars only because I have run out. I've officially run out of half-gallon size jars. Now, the variety of Holy Basil or Tulsi that we grow here on our homestead is the Name-Ocimum sanctum, and I'll put that spelling, I don't know if you can see it, but I'll make sure to put that down below. Honestly, this is probably my favorite Holy Basil, and there are a few different ones, but this is the one that I mainly like. And I started doing some reading because I was curious, and we're gonna try this. I have a sprig of Holy Basil seeds that are still here, ready to go. I'm actually gonna try something because I don't know if this is gonna work, but I read that if you freeze dry the seeds, that they'll still germinate. So I'm gonna give this a shot. I have this and it has little seeds in the flower pods. They're little black seeds. I'm gonna set this aside. We are gonna go ahead and try to get this started because I love to see if we can grow seeds that have been freeze dried because it's just one more cool thing that this freeze dryer can do. And I will also put out there that if anyone is interested in purchasing a freeze dryer, I do have an affiliate link that I will put down below. It does help support our channel, and it allows Harvest Rate to know that we're doing some cool stuff over here. But I'm gonna try that. This is an experiment. We are going to see if this works. I'll probably go ahead and start that later today, and then we're gonna babysit those and watch and just see if we can germinate some freeze-dried seeds. I use Holy Basil preferably in my teas because I think it tastes amazing, but you can use Holy Basil in multiple different ways. And I wanted to reference one of my books because I have a lot of people that ask about books. I really like Andrew Chevalier's encyclopedia. This is Encyclopedia of Herbal Medicine, and he has actually two of them. He's got the larger version, and then he's got, which is a smaller version, which I do really like because if I'm out foraging, sometimes we'll grab this book. And it's exactly that. It is an encyclopedia. But having an herbal encyclopedia is actually really good for the quick reference. Like what parts can be used. And it's all aerial parts. So stalk, leaves, flowers, those are all the parts of the plants that can be used. It also gives you some preparations on how to be able to use the plant, which I find is very helpful, especially if you're learning, if you're familiarizing yourself with a brand new plant that you've never used before. How can you use it? So a few different ways that this plant can be used. It can be powdered, which I'm kind of now considering, that might be something good, because I could take all of this and powder it up because there's no moisture in it. Now for powder purposes, it can be used, and this is the first time that I've read that, the powder can be used for mouth ulcers, and then also you can apply it on sore areas of your body. And it can also be taken and turned into like an actual juice, and that liquid, the extract of that, could then be used for skin infections, also ringworm, bug bites, all of that. Now some of the other herbal actions that it offers are, it's an analgesic, which means it'll help reduce pain, and then it is also an antispasmodic, which means reduces your spasms. Now I know Holy Basil as an adaptogen, and I use it in a lot of my teas, especially ones that are just gonna help nourish and maintain my body. Adaptogens, in short, basically mean that they will keep your body, keep your stress level, keep your body basically at a beautiful balance. And that is what we're looking for, because when things are thrown off, that's when you open up the door for opportunities. Like if you get stressed out, what happens? Well, then you get sick. But I also really love that this plant offers other herbal actions other than being an adaptogen, which is an anti-inflammatory. Well, that makes sense when you hear the word anti-inflammatory. You know, anti-inflammatory is to reduce inflammation. So this plant also offers that capability, whether you're drinking it in a tea form or using it externally on your body. I'm also kind of curious that I might take this and go ahead and set it up in an oil to see if that oil can then extract the same medicinal properties so that I can make a delicious skin salve with it because of its anti-inflammatory properties, and then also knowing that it's good for your external skin infections, bug bites, ringworm, all of that. So I just wanted to offer that to you guys because that kind of helps paint a picture to understand what a plant offers and then how can you use it. And having an herbal encyclopedia is a very good way to start to familiarize yourself. And then of course Andrew Chevalier goes into detail about some research, which I do like. I like the fact that each plant that is in this has some scientific research backing it, but it basically also indicates that Holy Basil has the ability to reduce blood sugar levels, thus will help diabetes. That's something that I've had a lot of people question and ask if there's anything out there that can be beneficial if you are diabetic. So this might be one that you would want to look into and talk to your doctor, see if it's something that you want to incorporate into your life. I'll make sure to put the link down below of the 2 books that I spoke about in the description if you guys are interested in adding them to your collection. I think it's a good one. And this one's perfect for on the go. I'm gonna go ahead and chop all of this up. We're gonna keep the stems as well. Might as well use it, it's not gonna hurt. But see if I can. That's the one good thing about freeze drying herbs is they're so brittle because there's no moisture in it. So when you're using them and preparing them like this, it's super easy. But my goal is to try to get it as fine as possible. The other thing too, sometimes what I found is after I have all of my freeze-dried herbs, this super easy to just come back through here and kind of cut it up a little bit just to make it easier for brewing. Oh my goodness. So when I talk about pairing an herb with another herb, I look at a few different things. I look at the herbal action and I also look at flavor, because you know that if it doesn't taste good together, you're not gonna drink it. Some of the ones that I prefer to add with the holy basil are chamomile and linden. Linden leaf and flower, both are very sweet. Chamomile was amazing, it's easy to come by. It also is a great anti-inflammatory. And again, if you're looking at the herbal actions that the holy basil offers, as in an anti-spasmodic, you know, this might be a good herb to pair with that based off of, like, say your body hurts, say you're coming down with a cold. There are also many benefits for Tulsi and respiratory health, which I think is amazing as well. So pairing Tulsi with chamomile or linden, you can also look at nervine herbs like skullcap. Skullcap kind of has like a bitter taste to me, so adding something that is a little bit more delicious to drink, I think pairs really well. The other one that I like to pair, which is another adaptogen, which is rooibos. Rooibos tastes really well with Tulsi. Or you can just drink Tulsi plain as a simple single herb, which is just as beautiful, but have fun with what you're creating. Blending herbs and blending to make your own tea is very similar to cooking in that sense, but this is just a different way to look at herbs and how you can incorporate them and use them to support your overall body for your overall health. And how wonderful is that you can do this. I've learned that if you keep your trays underneath of you, it makes it a little bit easier, but I probably should have done this in a big bowl. Whoops. This turned out to be absolutely beautiful. I want to show you guys the difference between the two because so this is the regular dried versus the freeze dried. So you can see how green and fresh the freeze dried herbs are. The smell is unlike anything. I mean, this smells amazing too, don't get me wrong, but this smells so delicious. For your brewing instructions, because I do have some people that do ask about that. If you're gonna brew just a cup of tea, that's roughly 8 ounces. You just do a teaspoon to 8 ounces. There are some contraindications when it comes to holy basil and the 2 that I know off the top of my head, but please do your own research when it comes to any type of plant that you are starting to incorporate into your life, just to make sure that it's the right plant for you. But if you are pregnant or if you're trying to conceive, this would not be one that I would drink. So I just had to put that there, but I am just so excited. We are gonna go ahead and start this experiment and see if I can grow some seeds, and I'll keep you guys posted on that. But thank you guys for coming with me and harvesting some beautiful holy basil and preserving it with me so you all can see the difference of how amazing this plant looks like. As soon as the holy basil is dry, that is currently hanging in the hanging basket, I'll show you the difference between the two, or the three. Now the next thing that I gotta do is make sure that it has the label on it. So it's gonna have its name, the scientific name, and then on the back is where I like to keep a log of like where it's sourced. So this was grown and freeze-dried, and that's what will end up being on that label. But as always, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty and learn something old. Bye guys.